Hello everyone, welcome back to another tier list video. Today we are talking about the starting small forwards for the 2021-22 NBA season. If you do go on to enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comment section on any rankings that you would change or disagree with. That's the biggest point of these tier list videos, is for me to have a talking point to be able to talk about every starter for every position, for every NBA team, and to be able to hear your thoughts on what you think about these starters heading into the next season. So be sure to give your input down below. That being said, let's go ahead and start with one of the easier ones. LeBron James, superstar. Sure, he may not be as good as he was a few years ago, but he is still a superstar level talent. Joe Harris, average starter for me. You can argue above average starter, very good three-point shooter, offers you a few other things on the offensive end as well. A very important piece of the Brooklyn Nets and a very good piece of the Brooklyn Nets, but for me personally is going to be an average starter. RJ Barrett, after what I saw from him last year, I think I'm going to put as an above average starter. Really improved his three-point shooting, still a solid from mid-range, can attack the rim. I think can improve a little bit more from mid-range and at the rim, specifically at the rim. With the use of his right hand and with the handle with his right hand, I think he can continue to improve as a playmaker as well. But I think those are a lot of the things that he can take strides in and will take strides in this upcoming season. But for now, I have him as an above average starter. Aquin Leonard, again, one of the easier ones here. Superstar tier, no doubt about it. Andrew Wiggins, I'd say is an above average starter for me right now. I'm sure he is nowhere near what people would have lived up to and some of the hype that was around him. But honestly, I think he was overhyped, but that's an argument for another time. Nonetheless, he had his best season he's had in a long time in Golden State. He really committed to the defensive end and became a really good wing defender, which is the biggest reason for his jump up to above average starter. While still being decent on the offensive end, efficiency can be a problem, but good from mid-range, good from three, while being a solid defender. Next up is Odan Bogdanovic, who had a very up and down season last year. Sure, he can give you 20 points on some nights, but he was extremely hit and miss and inconsistent last year. And as much as his three-point shooting is good, again, it was inconsistent. It's an important part of this Utah team, but that inconsistency has me between him being an average starter and an above average starter. Personally, based on how he played last year, I'm going to have him as an average starter, but you can certainly make the argument for him as an above average starter. Be sure to let me know what you guys think down below. DeAndre Hunter, for me, already is an above average starter, and I think we'll fully cement that if he stays healthy and plays well again this upcoming season. Really took positive strides forward on the offensive end last year, really improved his offensive game, which was the biggest concern for him coming into the NBA. Improved his three-point shooting and continues to be one of the best young wing defenders in the league. So for me, that puts him in the above average starter category. And Norman Powell, for me, is only an average starter, simply because he is at the small forward spot. If this was a shooting guard list, I would have him as an above average starter. But frankly, Norman Powell as a small forward is not anywhere near as valuable as a shooting guard, simply due to the fact that his defense is that much less significant. He can be guarded more easily with someone mobile at the three due to the length. And so obviously Norman Powell's still going to be good offensively. He can hit you some pull-ups, he can hit you some threes, he can attack the rim, he can be active. But ultimately, he's just not anywhere near as good as a small forward as he is as a shooting guard. And so that is why I have him as an average starter. You can argue above average, and I would probably have him there if he was a shooting guard. But he's not in this team. Lou Dort will be playing more so like the 2 for the OKC team, but this list does have him at the 3. I have him as an average starter for now. He has upside to be much greater than that, and next year's rankings he may be much higher. But based on what I've seen right now, he's a 3-and-D guy. That's what I've seen, and there's nothing wrong with that. He is a solid 3-and-D guard. Again, he shouldn't be on the small forward list, but he is. But ultimately, I would expect that if he continues to develop, then he could be in the above average starter category for next season. But for right now, he remains in the average starter spot. Anthony Edwards, he's a bit of a tweener for me between average and above average. I think for now, I would say average, but you could argue above average very easily. I think I will leave him in the above average starter category, actually. But again, you can make the argument either way there. He showed some flashes defensively, but also showed some flashes not so positive defensively, and was really good towards the back end of the year, numbers-wise, but even then efficiency here and there wasn't always the best, and it was such a small sample size that you can pretty much argue either way, whether he's average or above average. I will leave him above average because I'm confident enough that he will show that he is an above average starter throughout this season. But ultimately, that is where I will leave him. You can put him either way. Franz Wagner is a rookie, nor do I think he will start, but ultimately he's here. All rookies in these tier list videos, if you have not one of my point guard or shooting guard ones first, go check those out after this video. But ultimately, all rookies I'm putting in the below average starter category just because I don't want to guess what rookies are going to be. We will rank the rookies appropriately next year when I do these tier list videos before the upcoming season, just like I would have done with rookies in the past with DeAndre Hunter and Lou Dort and so on. Michael Porter Jr. for me as of right now. Oh, Michael Porter Jr. is tough. Michael Porter Jr. is tough. Right now, I have to say above average starter. If he starts averaging 25, 26 points a night this season, or really steps it up on the defensive end, which is what this Denver team really needs, then I will feel more confident and would put him in the all-star category. Man's a bucket, there's no doubt about that. But if he can continue to improve, especially with Jamal Murray out now, and can become a bit of a better defender, especially, then I will have no problem moving him into the all-stars here. Kyle Kuzma, for me, currently is going to be an average starter just because I don't know what we're going to get out of him in Washington as a starter. He's fine. He can score the bucket. He's improved defensively, but still not great. He's a fine starter. He could definitely improve this year with Washington, though, in an improved role. Jimmy Butler, all-star caliber player, no doubt about it. He's not good enough to be a superstar. He's not good enough on the offensive end, but he is a well-rounded two-way guy, good leader, and the engine of this Miami Heat team. Gordon Hayward, all-star caliber player, just isn't healthy enough to ever get an all-star nod or on good enough teams to get that recognition with Charlotte, although Charlotte are good and I expect them to be a playoff team. Ultimately, it's just not enough for him to get a nod, but he is an all-star caliber talent. Chris Middleton, same thing, and just coming off a chip with the Bucks, proved his worth and will really get the recognition now that he deserves and has deserved for many years now as being a very, very good NBA player and is certainly an all-star caliber talent. TJ Warren, again, looks like he will be struggling with injuries heading into the upcoming season, but the last we saw of him would put him as an above-average starter based on how good he played in his last healthy season and in the bubble. But ultimately, it still remains to be seen just how good he comes back after injury because he's been out for a long time now. Saddiq Bey, I really like what I saw from him in his rookie year. For now, he is an average starter, but I think he has some upside to continue to improve. Isaac Okoro, also just an average starter for the time being. I think he needs to improve a lot on the offensive end still, but he is a positive defensive piece for this Cleveland Cavaliers perimeter defense that doesn't have a lot of positives for their defense. OG Anunoby, above average starter. If all things go to best aspirations and best hopes this year, he could be an all-star next year, but that remains to be seen. Nonetheless, still a very important piece for the Raptors and will be their number one option on offense while Pascal Siakam is injured, according to some within the organization. Danny Green, for me, at this point in time in his career, is the below-average starter. He's a fine three-point shooter, but he's extremely inconsistent, and unfortunately, he still continues to get hyped up since he played as well as he did with the Spurs, and has played an important role on some championship teams like the Lakers and the Raptors, and does have some very crucial moments, but ultimately, his defense is nowhere near as good as it used to be, and his three-point shooting is way more inconsistent than it used to be. Jaylen Brown, all-star caliber talent, had a great year last year, really showed himself and the league that he was worthy of the contract that he got. Was very good on both ends, continues to be a great two-way player, and is going to be very crucial to the Boston Celtics' success this season. Devin Vassell, second-year guy, but we just didn't get to see much from him last year, so I'm going to reserve judgment for now and put him as a below-average starter. That's not necessarily because I think he is one, but ultimately I just haven't seen enough game time from him to know how good he can be. Brandon Ingram is an all-star caliber talent for me, was not on an all-star team last year, but has an appearance in the past, knows how to get a bucket, but does need to take a step forward on the defensive end for his game and the success of the Pelicans to really take another step forward. Dylan Brooks is an above-average starter for me. I think he's primed to have a really good year this year. I think he's someone that isn't really talked about within someone that can be very important for Memphis as being a core piece, but ultimately he's a lockdown defender, and I think is going to take another step forward on offense this year. Was very good for them offensively towards the back end of last year in the playoffs and in the play-in at moments. I think is going to be a very important player for them on both sides of the ball this upcoming season. Demar Derozan, you can argue all-star talent or you can argue above average starter. All-star appearance caliber, sure, but talent, No, for me personally, solely because of his defense. His defense is not good enough. His defense is terrible. It's just the way it is. Unfortunately, it always has been for DeMar DeRozan. As much as he's had the athletic upside, he's just never been good defensively, and his offense isn't good enough to supplement the fact that his defense is so bad for me to warrant him being in the All-Star category. Moving on to Sean Tate. Average starter, he's fine. I don't know if he's a long-term piece for Houston, but he's fine. He can get you a few three-point shots. He's solid defensively. He brings you some energy and some length. Not doing anything special for you. Reggie Bullock. I like Reggie Bullock. I think he had a good year last year. I don't know if he's going to be as successful from deep and with his three-point shooting as he was last year. I'd probably put him as an average starter, but if his three-point shot regresses a bit again, he could definitely fall down into below average starter. Harrison Barnes, probably an average starter, probably on the higher end of the average starter category and higher average starter tier, but just a solid do-it-all guy. He doesn't do anything special, but he just does everything well. He's a real Swiss Army knife and is an important part of the Sacramento Kings team that doesn't really have any quality wings outside of him. And then Mikhail Bridges, who's just newly extended from the Phoenix Suns, I will put as an above-average starter. His offense isn't necessarily as productive as some of the other guys in this above-average starter tier, but that's a large part because he just doesn't have to, with DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul, and Devin Booker often on the court. When he is on the court, and he isn't really expected to do this much on offense for the Suns, he finishes some dunks, some layups, and some threes, and gives them very good wing defense, which is all you really need to be a great wing player. And ultimately, he has more offensive upside as far as I'm concerned to continue to develop and be better. And if he was allowed to showcase it, I'd have no doubt that he would be able to do it as efficient as he is already. And so that is why I put him in the above average starter category. That being said, that is my thoughts on the starting small forwards in the NBA heading into the 2021-22 season. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think about my tier list rankings and anything you would change. That being said, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And be sure to click the box on screen if you want to see my shooting guard tier list rankings that I have done previously. That being said, hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.